Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are trying out something new, so please bear with us. We're joining you live from Restream. And so, to get us started, welcome to today's episode of the Create a Life You Love video podcast, where I get to connect with people from all around the world to share tips and strategies that help you on your own journey. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm your host, Chantal Cox. I'm an author and transformation coach who empowers motivated professional women who are ready to break free from the bondage of daily stress and anxiety so that they can step into their full potential and create a life that they love. I'm super excited to be here today with Kelly Hopkins. Kelly is a stress management coach who helps overwhelmed adults and teens to become clear, calm, and decisive so that they can thrive. So, hey, Kelly, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. This topic is definitely one that I personally need, and it is so far seems very popular in terms of how many people said that they were interested. So apparently we are all stressed out.
I think it's true.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you joining us from?
I'm currently in Georgia on the East Coast of the United States, and I've been living in Georgia for about a year. I moved from Costa Rica to Georgia, and I originally was working in Los Angeles for many years. For about 26 years, I worked in social services in Los Angeles, and then I adopted 2 children, and I wanted to be a full-time mom, so I quit my job and I moved with my kids to Costa Rica. And what I didn't realize was I was a workaholic because I loved my work. I didn't realize that it had overtaken my entire life until I stopped working. And so my journey with stress really came from my own struggle in giving all of myself to my work and then suddenly not having the work and being flooded by a lot of things that I had been using work to avoid and not realizing that I really needed a healing journey for myself.
Wow. I love all the places that you got to go and that you've adopted. That's amazing. What an amazing journey you've already had and experienced.
Yes.
Wonderful. So with all of that you've experienced and, transform people. So you were definitely at a place of stress and overwhelm and found some ways to work through it, thankfully.
Yes.
Yeah. So what tips do you have for all of us out here that are pulling our hair out with all the stress?
Okay, so for me, I turned to art as a healing method because I had actually, as a child, always been very creative, really interested in art, but I wasn't very good at it. And I didn't matter. I loved to be creative. And then when I was in junior high school, I got told that I was bad at art and singing. And so I didn't do it for a really long time. And then in my community building work, I started using art for relationship building. And what I noticed was that when people were engaged in art, they shared more, they had more fun, they connected more with other people. And that really stuck with me. So when I turned to my own healing in Costa Rica, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start an art group with my neighbors and I'm going to use art. And I was used to creating exercises for people to do a lot of different things with. So I started creating art exercises and I started researching stress and looking into all of the causes of stress. And one of the interesting things about stress is there is no diagnosis, either medical or psychiatric, for stress. It doesn't rise to a level of being diagnosable, but it's something that everyone experiences all the time because it's part of our old prehistoric systems. It's our old fight or flight response. And so stress actually comes from an external source. So you have something happening externally that is putting pressure on you. And then the stress is the combination of that external thing that is putting pressure on you and your response to it. And so those two things together create stress, and stress has really significant negative outcomes for people, both in the short term and the long term, both in terms of their mental health and in terms of their physical health. There are a lot of physical ailments that are directly tied to not having a good stress management plan. So in terms of tips, one of the things that I use, I've created these exercises that are a series of creative tools, but one of the things that I use that is very commonly used with stress and is very effective is journaling. And when you journal, one of the things that I recommend is combining breathing with journaling. And so when you sit down to journal, and a lot of people get intimidated by journaling, they get intimidated by writing. Particularly, I work with a lot of teenagers, and they, it feels like schoolwork to them. And what I always tell people is journaling is something that you cannot do wrong. There's no wrong way to do it. You might write words, you might write phrases, you might write full sentences. Sometimes when I'm really upset, I'll just write the same curse word all the way down the page. And you can't do it wrong. But if you start first by really becoming present with yourself, so you sit down and take some deep breaths. And the deep breaths that I really like are in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 8. Because when you breathe out longer than you breathed in, you're really kind of pushing past what came in. And so you get into a deeper place with yourself. And then I just write whatever is coming up for you. And that can be really, really helpful. And one of the things that I do too is throw it out. So write it really quickly and then throw it away. And that can be something less than 5 minutes that can be very quick for stress reduction, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. I carry a pad with me, so I can just blast something out and crinkle it up and throw it away.
I love that. Just the freedom of that. There's no wrong way to do it, and you can get it out and throw it away. Like, you don't have to turn it into your teacher and like it has to be perfect grammar and
no, and you don't have to keep it in a journal forever. The point of it really is releasing. And so in my work, I combine that with other creative tools such as art, drawing, painting, but the writing itself can be cathartic. And some other things that you don't need any tools for is obviously the breathing and meditation. And a lot of people also get intimidated by meditation because they think that it has to be, you can't be thinking. And that's really not true. With meditation and with mindfulness, it's really the awareness of what is going on around you and being present in the moment. So even if you're like, okay, I'm sitting at the computer, like right now, sitting at the computer, I see my fingers, I feel the table, so when you're being mindful, it's more the awareness of what's happening around you. And now there are really great apps for meditation. Headspace is a really good one. They have really short, there's one called 10% Happier, and that one is a really good one. And they have short 5 minutes, 2 minutes, really short meditations that you can do. Like if you're working and you have a break, or if you're at school and you have a break and you just have some headphones, and just being aware of your breath and your thoughts. And you don't have to have no thoughts. And I think sometimes people feel like, well, I can't meditate because I can't stop thinking. It's okay, just taking that time. And the research shows that as little as 5 minutes a day of meditation or mindfulness has a significant impact on stress. And so you don't have to do it forever. It's not, if you don't have a half an hour, it doesn't matter. If you do it for 5 minutes, there's a benefit. So what I do is I put an alarm in my phone. I put it in my schedule for a time when I'm usually alone, like I might be doing paperwork, doing something where it's not interrupting a meeting, or time with my children. And then it pops up on my schedule, and I just take 5 minutes right then, and I just do it, and I feel so much better. And the cumulative effect of doing that every day has a significant impact.
That's amazing. So much that you can get with just 5 minutes a day. And who doesn't have 5 minutes.
Yes. And the same is true of exercise, because, for the health benefits of exercise, you have to do a more significant amount, usually around 30 minutes, even if you break that up multiple times per day. For health, exercise recommendations are around 30 minutes. But for stress, it's not. It's like 5 minutes also. Like, you can take a walk around the block, and for stress purposes, just that, one of the things with stress is it's the thinking, it's your thoughts that are causing that pressure, right? You have the external situation, but it's your reaction that is turning it into stress. And so when you can interrupt your thinking, when you can give your mind a break from the worry or anxious thinking that you're having, it has an impact on reducing your stress, and also has an impact on reducing the physical effects of stress on you. So walking around the block is a good stress reduction technique. Even if you don't have a half an hour, you don't have extended period of time to exercise, doing jumping jacks can be a stress reduction. You don't need that extended period of time like you do for the health benefits.
Wow. So yeah, I'll definitely get those linked in the description to the Headspace and the 10% Happier for a quick meditation in your busy day. I love it. So yeah, so journaling, meditating, a little bit of exercise in there, all things that can help us combat that stress.
Yes. And for me, the creativity, there's a lot of research that shows that creativity has an impact. They've started to study the effect of drawing and painting, music and dancing on stress. And all of the research so far shows that it has a significant impact on your stress level, because it has that effect of interrupting. And one of the pieces of research that I read, it says meditation involves your mind, exercise involves your body, but when you're involved in creativity like drawing or painting, it actually involves both. So your mind is involved, and then you're also involving your body. So it has that a more significant effect of taking you away from the things that are stressing you. And then what I've done is I've designed exercises that are have a specific target in terms of where your stress is coming from, whether it's something from the past or whether it's something that you're currently dealing with, and shifting your relationship with that thing that is causing you stress, so that it's no longer that same trigger for you, and it doesn't have the same effect on you. And so it adds the sort of holistic effect of not just your mind and your body, but your heart and your soul as well, so that you're really taking a holistic approach to stress management.
I love that. I know right after my divorce, I stumbled into ballroom and Latin dancing, and yes, it was a lifesaver. Yeah. One of my dance friends has a shirt that says, "Dance, it's cheaper than therapy."
For sure.
Yeah.
And more fun.
That is. So have you always been kind of a creative person, or is that something that came out later in life?
I was, but like I said, when I was in the fine arts track the first year in junior high school, and then they kicked me out and they said, you're not good at drawing, you're not good at singing. So I didn't draw for like 25 years, but I was a theater major in college, and I had a theater production company, and I wrote and I acted and I produced plays, but nothing with drawing or painting or anything. And then when I was in my 30s, I had a boyfriend, and he was an artist, and he was like, you should do art. And I said, oh, I suck. I can't do it. And he said, that's not the point of art. The point of art is creative expression, and you should express your feelings through art. And that's kind of the seed of soul art exploration, was that experience of starting to do art for myself. Because my children are 6 and 8, and people think that all of my pictures were made by them. And even when they were like 2 and 3. So it's not about what your art looks like. It's about, you can take out a box of crayons or markers and start drawing your feelings as a way to relieve stress as well. And it doesn't matter what it looks like at all. It's about the process and what the process gives you, not about the product.
Again, there's something so liberating about that. I mean, just it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what you look like when you're dancing. It doesn't matter what you sound like when you're singing. It doesn't matter what your artwork looks like. It doesn't matter what your journaling looks like. They still have benefits.
Absolutely. It's the process, and I think that when you're stressed out, you're irritable, you don't have patience, you have a lot of dread. And when you're able to express yourself, and especially if you can express some of those things in your writing, in your drawing, in your dancing, because some of my exercises actually do involve some movement, then it releases it. And that's a really big thing with stress, is finding us, because you can't not have stress. It is part of the way that we're designed. It's the way that we respond to external pressure, but you can shift the way that you handle it. And if you have a good stress management plan, it doesn't have to become overwhelming for you at all. And I think that that's one of the things people really don't, they're just kind of like, oh, everybody's stressed. It's just the way it is. It doesn't have to be the way it is. You can develop a plan for your stress that makes you not have to feel overwhelmed.
I love that. Haley's joining us over on Facebook, and she says, man, this is exactly the stream I needed right now.
I'm glad.
It's awesome. So, yes. So
Another tip that I wanted to give too, and this one, there's a lot of research for it as well, is essential oils or scents. It doesn't just have to be essential oils. It can be things from nature, but there are many scents, because I think that going back to the creativity, it's kind of involving all of yourself. There are many scents, and lavender is a scent. Basil actually is a very calming scent, and vetiver. And when you use oils, and I actually will wear essential oil on my wrist, and my children wear it to school as well. And so if they're feeling stressed out, they'll smell their wrist, and it gives a calming effect. You can burn candles that have lavender. You can cook with basil, and you can even have basil on your wrist if you want, because it's a very calming scent. But scents have an impact on your stress as well, and your ability to release it. So that's another tip that people can use in terms of something they can carry around with them, they can wear on their body, they can put in the environment that they're in, that can help with stress as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of essential oils. So yeah. So you said basil, lavender. What was the
vetiver? Yeah, those are all really good for stress relief.
Awesome. Excellent. Yeah, what other tips?
I think one of the things that people don't recognize with stress is some of the consequences of stress. So there's a link between hypertension and heart disease with stress. There's a link between diabetes and stress. There's a link between more significant mental health issues, such as anxiety disorders, when you don't manage your stress on an ongoing basis. And so one of the things that I think is important is that people develop a plan that works for them. So there's exercise, there's any kind of journaling, there's meditation, there's drawing, there's painting, and you have to pick the things. There's oils. You have to pick the things that work for you. But I think the most important thing is inserting it into your life, because if you don't do it, this is something that I find with my clients, because we'll come up with a plan. Another thing that's really helpful is tapping. I don't know if people are familiar with tapping, but it's EFT, and now I'm blanking on what the EFT stands for. It's energy frequency transmission, I think. I'll look it up, because that I should know off the top of my head, but I'm blanking on EFT. But tapping, and so there's a lot of really good tapping videos. There's on YouTube, and tapping can be something too. Very minimal amount of time, and you have like tapping your eyebrow, tapping the side of your head, tapping the right under here. And it works in conjunction with statements. So you might say, like, all this stress I'm feeling, it's not doing me any good. I can let it go. And so, and there's many, many videos. So one of the things with all these things, there's a lot of tools available. 5 minutes tapping, and tapping up here on the top of your head, tapping here. And so when you figure out what works for you, what you like, the important thing is building it into your schedule. If it's really involved and cumbersome, you're not going to do it. So if you can come up with a few things that are 5 minutes or less and pepper them throughout your day and put them in your schedule so that you actually do them, that's really important, because if you don't do it, you will not have any effect. If you do it, all of these things have a cumulative effect. And when you get one of the things that I do in my work is try to get people back to kind of like a neutral place with stress, where it's not like they're not going to get stressed, because everybody gets stressed, but they're not in a place of overwhelm. They're in a place where they feel calm, they feel clear, they feel decisive. They have a bunch of tools that they know how to use. But the most important thing is, if they don't use the tools, it'll come right back. And so you have to work it into your daily life in a way that you will actually do it, and then keep yourself accountable. Like once a week, just kind of look back and reflect on your week. Did I do my breathing? Did I do my journaling? Did I do my tapping? Did I do my drawing? Did I do the things that I know will help keep me stress-free? And probably if you're like, you probably didn't do it, And if you did it, you probably have that more calm feeling. My children, we've been doing this since they were little. So when my son gets upset, he'll go grab the crayons or the markers and he'll draw his feelings, and then he'll bring them to me, and he'll bring me his picture, and we'll talk about it and talk about what happened and how he feels. And sometimes we'll do some breathing or some tapping, and it becomes a part of your lifestyle. And I think that that's the only way that you can keep yourself at a really great place with stress, is when you incorporate it into your lifestyle and it works for you. If you try to do too much, you're just going to do nothing. So don't try to do too much. Try one thing. Just try to incorporate one thing once a day. And then if that works and you feel better, maybe add something else. But don't go too big, too fast, or you probably will do nothing.
So true. So do you recommend, are you familiar with the term like habit stacking?
I'm not.
So it's exactly what you were just talking about, just with like a name attached to it. So like if you were going to start incorporating the tapping, like what's something you already do every day? Hopefully it's brush your teeth. And so while you're brushing your teeth, or right after you're brushing your teeth, if you did your new tapping routine or did your meditation, or just find a habit that's already embedded in your routine and just add something to it.
Yes, that's absolutely. And usually I encourage my clients something in the morning, as part of their getting ready for work or school routine. And then right before things where you really need your clarity, I always encourage them to put into their schedule, if they have a test, if they have something due at work, if they're about to have, a difficult conversation with someone, that those are the key places to insert something short, like, again, it doesn't have to take forever. These things they work very rapidly. And when you have that clarity and when you feel calm, you're so much more effective at whatever it is that you need to do. And I'm working with a bunch of teenagers who are going through virtual school right now, and they're having just such a terrible time being socially isolated from their friends. They've got teachers that are so overwhelmed because the teacher's teaching to people that are in the classroom and people that are on the virtual. They're in the classroom, but they can't get help, or they're at home, and everyone is so overwhelmed. So I always let them know, take that minute before it starts, before whatever this class is, or before you start your homework, or when you finish your homework, so that you can leave it behind you, because it's a really stressful time for, I'm not working with any teachers right now, but for the kids, I know, and I can't imagine. I hear the stories from the kids. I'm trying to imagine what it's like for the educators right now, and it must be very overwhelming. So I would say, definitely put it in the places where you're already doing things for yourself, like you're saying, the habit stacking, and then in places where you need that clarity and that calmness.
Absolutely. And we definitely will get all your information linked for everyone, because I know I myself am an educator. I've been out of the classroom for a few years. I'm in administration now, but I support these amazing educators that are just working so hard and are so overwhelmed and so stressed out. So to know that you are a resource that can work with educators, can work with stressed out parents, can work with stressed out teens, like
Yes.
what a great resource that we have here with us, everybody.
And I'm also doing a teen girl group, because I noticed in the girls that I have, I'm doing a group for girls 12 to 15. And I noticed that the social isolation is hitting them harder, and that sense of disconnection and overwhelm, being disconnected educationally. And in the girls that I'm working with, they're really struggling.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I know how hard it was for me as an adult with coping skills when everything went into shutdown and I couldn't do my normal social activities like dancing or going to see my friends. So I'm single, I don't have kids. Like there would be days where I'm like, I've not seen a human outside of a computer screen in 3 days. Like it's me
Yeah.
and my cat. Like, and so it's very socially isolating. But again, adult with coping skills. So pair that on some of our teens. It's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that's been happening for people is too much togetherness, I think it's getting a little bit better now, but I think, for families, for parents and for kids and for siblings, just the constant, like not getting a break from each other for months and months and months was causing I have quite a few clients that were just like, overwhelmed with the lack of any kind of a break from their family unit, which we usually get at some point in some way. And for some people, they haven't had it.
Oh man, I can't imagine my sister and I going through this when we were younger and had all the sibling rivalry.
Yeah.
Now we get along, but I don't know. Too much together time would still be not fun.
It's a
Um,
challenge.
yeah. So you've had so many great tips of things that you can incorporate in your schedule, ways to get them into your schedule, and you recommended only doing maybe one or two things to get started. Don't get overwhelmed with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
That's
love
what
the
try it. And if it doesn't work, if it's not effective or you don't like it, then go to something else, or you're not doing it. If you're not doing it, then it's no good. So you have to play around with it and come up with kind of like the recipe that works best for you with the tools that are available. And there are a lot of them. Also, progressive relaxation, where you're tightening and releasing the muscles throughout your body. There's also quite a few YouTube videos for that. So you can do progressive relaxation also. There are a lot of tools, and most of them are very simple and short.
That's good. Doesn't sound too stressful.
Exactly. You don't want to get stressed out by your stress management tools.
Definitely not. That is how I would do it, though. Awesome. Okay. So I'm writing down. That's why I keep looking down. I'm sorry. Like I take lots of notes, and then that helps me as well. So you said progressive relaxation and YouTube would be a good source for that.
Yes. And tapping, also YouTube is a good source for that. Headspace and 10% Happier are good for meditation apps. And there's lots of essential oils, but it doesn't even have to be essential oils. Just scents, anything that smells. And really, if it smells good to you, then it's a good tool for you. If if the smell makes you happy, it's a good tool. Another tool. So there's a lot of research around two things. One is smiling. It's very hard to be unhappy and smile at the same time. And then if you do this with your hands and smile at the same time, You can feel it shoot all up and down through your body. So just do this like 2 minutes and away from people, obviously, unless you just want everyone to think you're a winner. But that has an effect on your mood. And so, just really quick things that, because with stress, it's about interrupting the looping thinking and the patterns and the holding on to the pressure that's coming from the outside. So the more that you can break it up and give yourself a break, the less impact the stress has on you, and not to have an expectation that you won't have it, because it's human nature. It's a built-in response. And look at the world right now, let alone our own personal relationships, which cause stress, our own job, all these things. We have, global events that are causing stress as well. So it's not realistic to think that you're not going to have stress. You absolutely will have it. It's about managing your stress. It's not about eliminating stress.
Oh, absolutely. It's nice to give yourself permission and know that you're totally normal if you have some stress.
Totally. Yes. I would be worried about you if you didn't have any stress at this time.
Truth.
That would be like some serious denial.
Oh my goodness. Good. Well, we do have some questions. Do we want to jump into that? And then that may bring out some more of your things. And then I definitely want everybody to know how to connect with you and to hear about your freebie that you're giving. Super exciting. Sure. All right. So I'm going to try something new. So everybody bear with me. I think if I hit this button, we're going to be able to see the comment on the screen. You ready? Is it showing? Okay.
Yeah.
Haley says, a big issue I face is that I don't feel the stress. I can notice the symptoms of it, which for me is stomach inflammation, but I don't know how to notice it at the time that I'm stressed.
Okay. It's interesting. I was talking with a psychologist today who was telling me that the reason that your stomach, that happens to your stomach, is that when you go into fight or flight, other systems in your body shut down. And so your stomach actually stops its digestion process. And that's what makes you feel it in your stomach, is because that part of your body stops its function, like it gives way to the fight or flight response, because the reason that we have stress is so that we can either fight the saber-toothed tiger, or run from it, and it's a very old thing that is part of our operating system. And so that's why you feel your stomach actually stops its processes, and that what makes you feel upset. So, what I would say is keep a journal, like kind of at the end of the day for maybe a week or so, and notice, when did that happen? When did you not realize that you were in the stress until you were in it? And then what you need to do is, let's say it's, work related, and it's related to meetings, or it's related to something to do with your children, or something to do with your spouse. What you want to do is preemptively calm yourself. So take some time before you head into that situation to do one of the strategies. Don't wait to be stressed. So if you notice from your record keeping, your tracking, that it always happens before you teach a certain class, let's say, then you want to, before you teach the class, do the tapping, do the journaling, do one of the strategies. Don't wait for stress to come. Track your own stress patterns and preemptively do a strategy ahead of whatever those triggers are, because you'll see that there's a pattern to the things that stress you out, and you can get ahead of it and make yourself calm heading into that situation, instead of waiting for your stomach to tell you, oh, I'm already stressed out. I hope that is helpful.
I think so. It's good to be proactive, just to kind of frame it in that way.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily know, and what the person's saying is they don't recognize the pre-stress, and they only recognize it after it's on them. So you have to kind of be a little bit of a detective to figure out what your triggers are if you don't know. And then once you know what your triggers are, then you do the preemptive stress release technique.
Awesome. Let's see. Here's another one. Al says, I will say that it's happening a lot earlier for girls age-wise. So Al, are you talking about like kind of stress? Like,
Yes.
yeah, you're seeing that too, Kelly?
Yeah, the work that I do is a little bit, I work primarily with 12 and up because it's a little bit, some of the exercises that I do are a little bit too sophisticated for kids that are younger than that. But I work with my own children and have since they were little with art and stress reduction. And I think it's kind of the same thing, that if you can help children to recognize their own triggers, and to give them tools. All of these same tools work with kids. There are tapping videos specifically for children. That's a very effective technique. With journaling, even if kids are not comfortable writing, if they can tell you, if they can do a verbal journal, maybe they do it for themselves or they do it with you, drawing, but building that skill set, building in stress management as part of the tools that you give them as they're growing up, so that they're not being overwhelmed by stress. They're understanding stress is part of life. It's one of the things you're going to feel when you meet someone new, when you go to school, kind of go through typical places that you might find stress, and give them stress management tools, just like you would teach them how to brush their teeth, so that as they're getting older and as they're growing, they recognize that stress will be part of their life and they're prepared for how to deal with it. And it just becomes second nature. That's how my children are with stress management. They expect it. They know we put the oils on the way to school, and I let them know, if you're feeling, stressed at a certain point during the day, don't forget to smell your wrist, so you can prepare them for it.
Yeah. How old are your children now, Kelly?
They're 6 and 8 now, so they're still little. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that goes with it is the language of feelings, and making sure that all feelings are okay and acceptable, that anger is okay, because sometimes what happens with stress too is that you're repressing things and it's causing you tension to hold in your feelings. So one of the things I always did with my kids is to make not all behaviors are acceptable, but all feelings are acceptable. And we have all of them, and they all have a function, and they all support us. We just need to figure out how to work with some of them that can, create negative situations, but that we don't want to not have anger. We don't want to not have sadness or anxiety or any of those, because when you deny feelings, that creates a pressure and that creates a stress. And if you're little and you have feelings and somebody's telling you not to have them, that can create stress for children.
Yeah, that is a program that we use a lot in the schools that I work with, the zones of regulation, and it talks about the different feelings. Like if you're blue, you might be feeling tired or sad or whatever, but it's not bad. Like it's okay to feel blue, and like teaching the kids that. And then like green is ready to learn, and then there's different colors for if you're feeling anxious or you're really angry or so yeah, I love to hear that. Let's see. Haley says, smell is one of my biggest de-stressors. I love a good candle, and wax melts are constantly melting in my room. I remember a situation before my first big travel trip when I forgot my list of things I needed to buy before I left, and I searched for the Neutrogena grapefruit face wash at Target to calm myself. Haha.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, when you're in the store, you have access to all the smells.
Yeah. This one, I think, is from my cousin, just based off when I'm switching back and forth to the Facebook tabs because it's not showing who it is. So she asked, if you experience PTSD, what are some things I can try when I notice the triggers?
So, with PTSD, I think, depending on the circumstances, sometimes that there's stress and then anxiety, and then where you're into something that's more significant. So sometimes with PTSD, I would recommend potentially meeting with a counselor or a therapist to see if that might be a method of working cognitive behaviorally with that issue. But for the almost every client that I have has issues in the past that are triggers for stress that create real emotions in this moment that are actually, not just the thing that happened now, but 10 other things or something really big. And so what I always like to do is I have an exercise that we work through things that happened in the past. And one of the things I think is resistance. When we resist what's happening, it persists and it gets bigger. And so I try to work with people on acknowledging, what did I receive? What are the lessons? What are the things that I gained from that negative experience? I'm going to accept those. I'm going to carry those forward. And what are the things about that experience that no longer serve me? At that time, I experienced something. I needed to react in a certain way. That took care of me. That's how I took care of myself in that circumstance. But now I'm not in that circumstance anymore. And now I can say thank you for being there to myself, being there for myself in that moment, in that time, and, having the reaction that I had. But now I'm not there. And now I don't need that anymore. I don't need to hold on to that anymore. And sometimes I'll even do ceremonial type things with burning, writing things out and burning them, or whatever feels good to the person in terms of release. But I think that there's the lesson and the gift of any experience, even if it was a negative experience, that we got from it. And then there's the negative trauma that we want to work toward releasing and letting go of. But I think a lot of these same techniques, meditation, mindfulness, being grateful that you are not there now. I think that I think people try to not have feelings when they're really big and when they're negative. And so instead of trying to resist it, to acknowledge that thing did happen and it was not good for me, but it's not now. I'm not there now. And to try to bring yourself into the present with the journaling, with the present, I encourage people to write about, like, I'm writing with a black pen. I'm sitting in my living room and I see Halloween lights and I see pictures of me and my children, like things that bring you into the present. Because a lot of times what happens with the past is it's not here, it's not now. And now you're okay. And so if you can get into the present moment, instead of staying in the past, you can get that feeling of, okay, right now in this moment, I'm okay.
Awesome. That's excellent insight and information. All right. Well, it looks like that is all the questions and comments that we have right now. If anybody has anything else, feel free to chime in as we kind of wrap things up. I'm going to put up your website here on the screen. And so it's soulartexploration.com. And that is like your social media handle too, right? Soul Art Exploration.
Yes, it is.
And so they could find you on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, my Instagram is my name and Soul Art. So it's Kelly Hopkins -Soul Art, but the Facebook is Soul Art Exploration, and my website is soulartexploration.com. And if people would like to try some of my exercises, I have 2 of them available on my website. It's free to get them, and they're in written form. But there is also a link to my Facebook group, and in my Facebook group, I have them in a video format if that works better. And there's a video training for the 2 exercises. One is for releasing emotions. So in addition to the journaling that I was telling you about, you do an art exercise that also takes you, it's a deeper level of release than just the journaling alone. And then there's another exercise for creating positive emotions. So sometimes I use them together. I use the releasing emotions almost every day. And sometimes if I am, a lot of times you get upset and then it'll linger, it'll stay with you. Again, not in this present moment. It's not happening anymore. You had that fight with somebody, or you had that negative interaction, or something happened and it's sticking with you. So this releasing emotions exercise is very good for that. And then let's say you want to feel not just not mad, you want to feel happy. Then the second exercise is for creating emotions. And that's also meditation and drawing. And you can use them together, or you can use them separately. If like you feel fine, but you'd like to feel better, you can do just the creating emotions one. And so they're available on my website, they're free. And then in my Facebook group, they're free in video format. And there's even in the comments a short version of each one, once you know them, that just guides you through the processes.
That's so exciting. We have one more. Julie says, thank you. So yeah, so everybody definitely go to Kelly's social media and her website and get that freebie. That sounds super exciting and definitely worth checking out. And my freebie for the day is, if you want to dig deeper with me on any topic, you can sign up for a free 15-minute call. Just go to calendly.com/Khalil for Create a Life You Love 15. And as always, join me every Tuesday in the Facebook group, Create a Life You Love Community, and we'll bring other amazing guests like Kelly on. And so if there's certain topics you want to hear about, or certain speakers you want to hear from, let me know and we'll get those going. So Kelly, one thing that I love to end kind of with is asking guests, what are your daily non-negotiables?
Stress management. So I always do everything that I do, or I work with other people, I do myself. So I always make sure I put in my meditation every day. That's a non-negotiable. Spending quality time with my children, that's a non-negotiable for me. And some form of art. I always, if it's not an exercise, I always draw or paint with my kids. Something that we love to do. So keeping creativity alive, spending time with my kids, and stress management, I would say.
I love it. Definitely in line with all of your, just everything that you're doing and putting out in the world. So it's beautiful. Haley says her non-negotiable is coffee.
I do love coffee too.
Yes. Well, thank you everybody so much for joining us tonight, and have a fabulous evening. And yeah, it's been fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.